Happy Tuesday, April 25th, on another very, semi-cold day here in the city of Pittsburgh. We're at the end of April and we're still in the 50s, not even really getting to 60 degrees. It's getting a little annoying. I'm sure it's going to warm up at some point. I'm just complaining about the weather. Anyways, for today's episode, we have Evgeni Malkin's season in review. We're going to continue our player season reviews and our start of a new series, my mock offseason. If I were GM, these are some of the moves I would make. We're going to start off with a couple of moves today. Then we'll continue it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and probably into next week. I don't think I can fit a whole mock offseason into a 30-minute podcast. So we're going to do them in segments throughout the week. And then next week, then we'll also finish up with the Stanley Cup Playoffs. So that's all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day, where you're free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So let's get right into it. Kicking off my new mini series here, my mock GM offseason. If I were the GM and the Penguins somehow hired me, please do not. I have no experience in that kind of role. These are just a couple of the moves that I would do. Number one, my first order of business. If I were to be the general manager, I had a press conference and I would get to know the team and see what I'm working with and all that. After about a week or two, my first order of business, I would buy out the contract of Mikael Granlund. I know, huge shocker to some of you, probably like, oh, Hunter, easy way out. Yeah, it kind of is. I don't see any way he can be on this team next season. I've talked about it extensively on this show, on my Twitter. I know Danny Shirey and Taylor Haas have talked about it on their podcast. I think it's for DK Pittsburgh Sports. I know the Nick and Nick show have touched on it as well. There is no reason for him to be on this team next season. I know buyouts suck. You're paying a player, longer to not be on your team. The Penguins are learning that right now with Jack Johnson because it's been a couple of seasons and they're still paying his contract and they're going to continue to pay his contract, for the next couple of years. That's how it goes. Some of those contracts can cripple you. This one won't be crippling. Funny thing is, if the Penguins do buy him out this offseason, which I would do, you do that, you get $4 million of salary cap space. Right now, they have a projected $20 million in cap space. You can get $24 million in cap space by doing that. He only has about, I believe it's a 830. I believe it's like an 830, 930K cap hit for this season. Then it goes up to 1.8 million for the last 3 seasons. You will be paying out the contract over the next 4 seasons because he has 2 years left on his contract. You get $3 million in salary cap space next season. After that, it goes down a little bit. You still, I think, get $1 million or $2 million, but you're still saving against the cap, and he's also not on your team. I don't think I would be able to get anything front for him if I were the mock GM, and whoever gets hired, I would agree. If you are somehow able to ditch that contract, you're probably going to have to part with some futures, and I don't think the Penguins want to part with a high first, decent second-round pick. Anything like that. Heck, they don't even have this year's second-round pick because they traded it away for Granlund. So that's what I'm looking for. That's my first order of business, is getting rid of the Granlund contract. It's a deal that cannot be on the books. It makes no sense. He was terrible when he got here. 1 goal in 21 games. It was a garbage time goal. You take that away. He didn't score in the 21 games. Was not good offensively. His defensive work, which was shoddy, even before he got here, did not improve at all. He is just not a natural fit for the Mike Sullivan system. And that's my first order of business. I would be getting rid of his contract and starting really basically almost fresh in the bottom 6, even though you probably are stuck with Carter. Drew O'Connor is going to be there, maybe a couple others. I'm not sure. So that's order of business number 1. My second thing that I would do, I would go after Jeremy Swayman. Yep. Goaltending is, you can argue a top left shot D is more, valuable for the Penguins right now than a goalie. I don't know how many of you would win that argument, but goaltender, it's at least 1B in the terms of, oh yeah, you need to fix this going into next season because you cannot run Jari and DeSmith back. Swayman, he makes only $925K this year. He's an RFA. The Bruins, they're going to have a cap crunch. They are already paying Linus Ullmark $5 million, I believe, for the next 2 seasons. They are not, I don't think they're going to be eligible to pay Swayman and Ullmark at the same time. I don't think they're going to want $10 million tied up in goaltending when they have other matters to attend to when it comes to their roster. If I am the Penguins and I am the GM, I am aggressively going after Swayman. I don't know if you can do an offer sheet. I read this morning from Adam Gretz on Pittsburgh, where apparently they no longer own their 3rd round pick because, of course, in the Kulikov trade with McGinn. So that limits what they can do and also takes them out of the running for some offer sheets that they could, have. If you get an offer sheet, if you sign someone in an offer sheet and you get the player, I think one of the things you have to give up is a 3rd round pick, and the Penguins don't have that. So that might be off the table, but you can still trade for an RFA for his rights at least, so you can negotiate a contract with him. And if I'm the Penguins and I'm the GM, I would be very much wanting to do that. Swayman has been unreal for the Bruins this season. And him and Ullmark, they won the Jennings Trophy together. Ullmark, 2nd overall in goals saved above expected. Swayman this season, 8th. He played 37 games, saved 24 goals above expected. 913 save percent, not 913 save percentage, 920 save percentage, 2.27 goals against average. His save percentage on unblocked shots, 958. His expected save percentage on unblocking shots, 945. Plus 13 in terms of expected save percentage over actual save percentage on unblocked shots. He was one of the best goaltenders in the league this year. He's young. He's very good. I would be giving up a lot to go get him, whether it's, the 1st round pick, another piece. I would be aggressively going after Swayman to try to really get a true starter in here because, you look at the free agent goalie market. It's crap. Antti Ranta's out there, cool veteran. Frederik Andersen, he's injury prone. Tristan Jarry, we all know what he is. Semyon Varlamov, mediocre. There is not a lot of good goalies out there on the free agent market. If you are looking to really, make a splash to try to improve this team, has to be via trade for goaltending. That is the one I will be doing. I will be looking to trade for his rights, to see if I can sign him to a long-term deal. Or, maybe you have the good old-fashioned sign and trade where the Bruins sign him and then they send him to Pittsburgh and the Penguins give up, whatever they want, whether it's, draft picks, prospect, player, something like that. But that is my second order of business when it comes to my mock offseason. Those are the only 2 moves I'm going to give you today because this is just the first segment. But my first 2 moves as general manager, buying out my Kyle Granlund, and I am trading, for Jeremy Swayman. And if you can, and if someone is a little smarter than me with offer sheets and they can do it, I would be doing that as well. But I think they're probably going to have to trade for him rather than offer sheet him. He is my guy because, I don't know if Nashville is going to want to give up UC Saros. I think they see him as a very cornerstone piece for the franchise. Obviously, I would love to throw the kitchen sink at the Predators to try to get him. If not, Swayman is the dude. Heck, even if the Bruins somehow want to keep Swayman and they put Ullmark on the market, even though he's making a little decent amount of money, I would call the Bruins for that him too because he's potentially going to win the Vezina this season. He was that good. So either way, I am looking at the Bruins in terms of goaltending. Preference though, Swayman, bit younger, cheaper right now. It's not going to be any longer because he's going to have a contract extension or a raise, after the season is up. But that wraps up this segment for a couple of moves for my mock offseason. Stay tuned for Wednesday when I give a couple more mock offseason moves that I will have. But coming up after this commercial break, we're going to get into Evgeni Malkin's season review, how I thought he played, did he exceed expectations, and what to look for him for the 2023-2024 season. But before we get into that, we do have to discuss Indeed. Well, that is not the right one. I accidentally put game time up. That is the second ad read that I'm going to have today, not the first. We do have to discuss, Indeed, when you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you can handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast enough with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. And if you hate waiting, Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed employees find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Indeed, they're very good with some of the assessments, also with matching you with jobs that you want. And again, they also know when you're growing your own business, you have to make sure every dollar counts. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. One more time, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. I'm back here in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So, Evgeni Malkin, continuing our player season reviews, he exceeded I think almost everyone's expectations this season, played a full season, which is something that I and probably no one else saw coming because, he's obviously been a little injury prone these last couple of years, but he stayed relatively healthy this year and he showed it. 83 points in 82 games. He was right up there with Sidney Crosby as one of their best players, night in and night out. Does he have the defensive metrics? No, but honestly, has he ever had the defensive metrics? Also, no. I'm not. His defensive game does it need work? Yes, but the guy's 36 at this point. I don't really think he's going to care that much about it anymore. He didn't care that much about it when he was 25 and putting up 100 points, 90 to 100, I guess. I don't think he's going to give too much of a crap about it right now. I know people complain that he's like a minus player. Sometimes I couldn't care less about that. He's a difference maker for this team at 5-on-5, and he provided value that no one else in the free agent market would have last year. He's not a power play specialist, as people like to say. He was very strong at 5-on-5 this year, and the data backs that. Played in all 82 games. When he was on the ice, the Penguins had 55% of the shot attempts. They also had 51% of the actual goals for, 65% of the expected goals, 54% of the scoring chances, 56% of the high danger chances, and 53% of the high danger goals for. He was outstanding for this team. One of the only reasons why, they were in the playoff race until the end. If you subtract, him or Sid out of the lineup for any stretch of this season, they are probably eliminated by that time they play the Chicago Blackhawks. That's how important both, especially Malkin, was to the team this season. Again, it's honestly a miracle that they almost got this team to the playoffs because, the rest of that team outside of a handful of contributors was not good. But man, what a renaissance season he had. He came off the injury. Remember, after last season, had a full offseason to recover. And I expected him to be good. I don't think I expected him to be this freaking good for the Penguins. Night in and night out. Great offensively. He scored one of the goals of the season for the Penguins when they needed it most against the Capitals after they blew that 3-0 lead in the third period, as they were blowing leads all season long. I kept reading from people at the Penguins have had a blowing lead problem for a long time. No, it was only really this season. Before this season, the Penguins have been very good at protecting leads under Mike Sullivan. And whether it's going into the third period or when they have a lead, when they take the lead in the third period, they're usually able to close it out. This season, that changed, and obviously that does need to change next season. But, it really only became a big issue, I think, this season. But, Malkin, that goal was awesome. He was able to pick Anthony Mantha's pocket, go blocker side on Darcy Kemper, and the celebration that he had was tremendous. He was one of the only players I thought that showed up against the Blackhawks in the second to last game of the season. Had that goal off a beautiful feed from Rickard Rakell. His celebration was also great. He really wanted to be in the playoffs. He hadn't missed the playoffs since, really coming over here, to be honest, from Russia. He's a competitive person. I know he broke the penalty minutes record for the franchise this season. Don't think for a minute that he doesn't care. He's a very emotional player. He wears it all on the ice. You can see it. And yeah, does he take dumb penalties sometimes? Yes. Does he make a stupid play on the ice sometimes and makes a bad defensive read? Yes. But he makes up for all of that with his offense. And you saw it this year when he had 83 points in 82 games. He did all that at age 36. 36, people. 83 points. Again, I keep saying this. It would be so much easier to say, and not be as upset that the Penguins missed the playoffs and they missed a golden opportunity to continue to contend this year because, the core players just don't have it anymore. They had a bad decline. No. Sid still had over 90 points. Geno still had it, over 80 points. We're going to get to Letang a little later on when it comes to player season reviews when we get to the defensemen. But, Geno was a massive reason why this team was in the position that it was. And he had so many outstanding games this season where it's like, wow, it was almost just like vintage Geno out there. So I'm really happy with his season. And I think for next season, expectations-wise, I don't know if you can expect him to play every game again. I think that's a little bit of a fool's errand. But if he can play 70, 72 games, obviously he could play the full 82, that'd be awesome. But if he can play, 90, 95% of his games, still stay close or over a point per game and get this team into the playoffs, I would say that's a very successful season for someone who's going to be 37 next year. So that's what I'm looking forward to from Malkin for next season. Thought he was great. Underlyings were awesome. Vince Trocheck doesn't put up those numbers. Neither does Andrew Copp. Neither does anyone else on the free agent market that people were talking about replacing him with. He was awesome. So that wraps up this segment one, Malkin's player review. Coming up to end the show, going to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, what happened on Monday night, and what to look forward to for tonight. And then obviously Wednesday, I'm recording this right now, right about 7 o'clock, right when the Islanders and Hurricanes are going to take off. So by the time you listen to this, it's probably just that part's probably going to be old news. But we'll discuss the games from Monday night and all that jazz. But before we get to that, I can finally put my Game Time promo up. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. And with that, Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all of your sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. I know I've had my fair share of times where I've need, to buy tickets really quick when I've been stressed. Like, for example, the Steel Panther concert actually was done this time back in March. The Penguins tickets just a couple weeks ago for the Blackhawks. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. They have deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, hockey, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. And there's also the Game Time guarantee. It means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and rows for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. You can download the app right now, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, I'm back in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you so much for making this your first listen of the day. So great night of hockey last night. That Rangers-Devils game. Wow. I am kind of stunned that the Devils tied up the series. The Rangers were making them look like fools in those first two games. Looking like Penguin Senators 2007, where a veteran team was just going to kick the small team's butts or the inexperienced team's butts. No. New Jersey comes right back, wins game 3, a really close game in overtime. Dougie Hamilton gets the game winner. Then last night, the Devils absolutely kicked the Rangers' butts at Madison Square Garden. It's tied now, going back to Newark for game 5. The Rangers got to figure something out. Their best players have not been good this series outside of Chris Kreider. I don't want to hear Penguin fans complain about some star players not showing up in big situations if the Rangers lose this series. Because right now, Mika Zibanejad, goose egg through the first 4 games. Artemi Panarin, goose egg through the first 4 games. They have not done a bleeping thing. Obviously, that can change. With my luck, it probably will. But they need a lot better from their star talent outside of Kreider. Fox has been good. Shesterkin's doing all he can. He's only allowed 6 goals in 4 games. He's been awesome. I mean, you expect that. But Rangers got to wake up here. I think that would be a pretty bad loss to a young team after going up 2-0. Toronto, I'll say it. I think this might be it. This seems different to me, Yins. It really does. They win this series. I really don't think Kyle Dubas is coming here if they finish this off. I think they're going to extend him if they win this series. The only way I saw him coming here is if the Leafs flame out. And sure, they could. If they blow a 3-1 lead, a whole bunch of changes are going to Toronto. Do I think that's going to happen? I'm leaning towards no. Obviously, the memes are there. 3-1 series lead. I don't think it's going to happen, though. It just seems different. The past few years, Leafs teams do not win that kind of game that they did on Monday against Tampa Bay, and they also don't come back the way they did as well over the weekend, down 1 goal with a minute left. Honestly, the Lightning could easily be up 3-1 right now. They've blown a lot of leads in this series. But the Leafs, they seem like a different team. Great series. I expect Toronto to win that, and I think the curse might be lifting. We'll have to see how tomorrow goes. Colorado, Seattle. Wow. Seattle is giving them a fight. And I thought Colorado would dispense with them pretty quick. I didn't think Seattle was going to be much of a challenge. Boy, was I wrong. Even after Jared McCann went down last night off of a very dirty hit from Cale Makar, and he should have gotten more than 1 game. So late hit right near the boards after he had a breakaway. No reason for it. Jordan Eberle, Penguins killer, gets the goal in overtime. It's tied going back to Denver. Avs have a tough game 5. Now without Makar, no Landeskog. Obviously, he's done for this year. It's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of the series goes. I'm going to pick Colorado. It's a best of 3. But Seattle's definitely not making it easy on them. I'll say that. And then the Vegas series, up 3-1. I'm not really too surprised. Hellebuck can only do so much for the Jets. The Jets have never really been that good of an offensive team. And Vegas, they have their faults, but I think they are a better team than Winnipeg. So those were the main ones from last night. Tonight, this is going to be old news. Carolina and New York. The Islanders lose this game. I think you're going to see some serious changes to that organization this summer. I don't know if Liam Lambert would come back. What happens with Lou Lamoriello? Do they make a lot of changes to the roster? I think they would. I don't think that's going to go over well if they lose this game, especially to a Hurricanes team that's down, 3 to 4 forwards at this point. The Islanders need to force this back to Long Island. Right? The Hurricanes, they don't usually lose at home, so we'll have to see what happens there. Edmonton, LA, that should be a fun game 5 after Evander Kane saved their season over the weekend. Should be good. And is that the only series tonight? Just making sure here. I thought there was another game tonight as well. I think I'm forgetting tonight. Oh, Minnesota Dallas. Of course, yeah. I have my eye on that game. Also, a must-watch series. If you are not watching it, you are missing out on some electric hockey from both sides. I can't believe I almost forgot that there was the game tonight. Jeez. But that'll do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I really appreciate all of you listening / watching. We'll continue our player season reviews for Wednesday, and we'll also continue the mock GM offseason for me on Wednesday, along with another recap of the Stanley Cup Playoffs and some other notes sprinkled in it. If we have some GM search updates, we'll put those in there and some other stuff as well. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. I'll be back with another episode for you all on Wednesday. Have a great Tuesday.